My goodness. I better talk quickly here.
Put your glasses on.
The Great Spirit is speaking to us.
Put your glasses on.
Welcome to Schaghticoke Indian Reservation. We are so glad and thankful and grateful that you guys came here today to see everybody. My name is Sunshine Whitefeather, and this is Princess Chikara, who has lived here her whole life. And this is Princess Laughing-Brook, who has lived here her whole life. And we are the strong women of the tribe, and these women are so strong that they're my inspiration and my spiritual advisors. So I'm so glad you came, and if they'd like to speak, I'll give them the mic for a little bit. And just be careful with words, because Facebook and text messaging with negative things because of fear is why no one's here. So when we text message and Facebook each other, make sure that what you do is the truth, because they said there were people here arresting van loads of people. But the paper today said it's all peaceful and just a little drumming and face painting and everything was good, and then we had a coup and we won and we're all happy. So peace prevailed, dudes.
Just a couple of things I'd like to say.
You're right close to it.
All right, a couple of things I'd like to say is I also thank the town for coming down and cutting our reservation on both sides of the reservation, stop sign to stop sign. Also, Kent School for loaning us garbage bins and everything else. The town and the tribe is working together as neighbor with neighbor. But they do know our sovereign rights, and when we tell them to leave, they leave peacefully. Okay?
Yes.
So no problem.
No.
No problem at all. And you know that there's been people here to try to sabotage this. Mr. O'Neill, I'm sure you all met. And what we found out is he told us straight up that DEP didn't want this to be successful, and he was sent in to sabotage it. Too bad.
Too bad. We are
Too
here
bad.
and loving it. Thank
Now
you.
the chief,
Mrs.
thank
Carroll,
you.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Princess Laughing-Brook. Everybody calls me Brooke. I've been here forever, and they call me Laughing-Brook because I like to laugh at nothing.
Yay.
So I believe in
Yay.
peace and tranquility, and I think that everybody should be brothers and sisters, and that the tribe should be united beyond belief, because there's too much fighting in the world and too much hostility. And I really want to thank everyone for coming, and I hope the next event we have more people, because this isn't a place for fighting. It's for holding hands and loving one another. And that's what the whole world should be about. Thank you.
Thank you, Princess Laughing-Brook. I have a writing here, if I can find my eyes, from Michael Morningstar, who is a very big part of what we do here and works very hard to keep things together. He was selling water this week, make sure everybody was hydrated, and he wrote this. So let me get on before the rain comes any further. And thank you, Great Spirit, for speaking to us with thunder, because we know that if the thunder don't get you, the lightning will. And we want STN to know that, so that's for you, STN. One of the most important fundamental concepts, this is Michael Morningstar's words, underlying the special relationship between Native American nations and the United States is the inherent sovereignty of Native American nations. The sovereignty of Native American nations was recognized in 1532, was the Emperor of Spain, and as recently as July 1980 by the United States Supreme Court. The equality of the Native American nations is best understood under the historical and legal perspective. With the arrival of the European powers to the New World came a further recognition of all sovereign powers of the Indian nations. The Dutch, the Spanish, the French, and the English recognized the sovereignty of nations, of Native American nations, by entering into 800 treaties with the Native Americans. Under international law, treaties are a means for sovereign nations to engage with each other, and the fact that the European and the United States made treaties with the Native American nations demonstrates that they recognize the sovereignty of Native American nations. It's very hard for people to concept that we are a nation, a sovereign nation. Part of the reason is that there is no clear definition of it. However, there are a number of generally accepted fundamental attributes to being sovereign. First, the most important are the people. There must be a distinct, unique group of people and have distinct languages or moral and religious structure and a distinct cultural base and a specific geographical area that they control and regulate. Within that area, they must possess governmental powers, including the power to change their government as they see fit. These governmental powers must be acknowledged by the people who are subject to them and enforceable by some sort of authority, whether it's military or general citizen control. There's one more attribute to sovereignty, which is recognition by another sovereign. Treaties are a contract between governments. When two governments enter a treaty, this means they recognize each other as sovereign treaties. When the United States was recognized tribes as sovereign through the treaties, they followed in the footsteps of the European. They had good reasons for entering this with Indian tribes. First, the tribes had significant military power. Until 1800, tribes, if they had united enough military power to run the Europeans off the continent. After 1800, the growing masses of people that had come here changed the situation. The second reason that the Europeans made treaties till 1800 was to control the balance of power. That means if you were in France, you wanted the tribes to support you against Spain and Britain and any other countries and vice versa. If the tribes don't support you, you wanted them to remain neutral towards you. Oh, great, light. Okay. The relationship between Native American nations and the United States government is unique in a number of respects. First, the Indians are the only group specifically identified in the Constitution. People unfamiliar with Indian law make the mistake of this distinct one as a racial nature. This isn't the case. Indian tribes are distinct entities and government with executive, judicial, and legal powers. In a case, according to the Supreme Court, the fact that repeated treaties with them recognize the Indian rights of self-government and settled doctrine, and the weaker power does not surrender its independence or its right to self-government by associating with a stronger nation and taking protection. Critics complained that Indian tribes weren't nation in the European sense. The court responded that the word treaty and nation are words of our language selected in diplomatic legislative procedures by ourselves, each having a definite, well-understood meaning. When applied to Indians, we have applied them to other nations on earth. They applied in the same sense. While exercise of sovereign powers has been restricted, there's no doubt that the United States and other nations have identified and honored the inherent sovereign rights of Native Americans. The discovery of America by European nations made it necessary for them to turn doctrines and formalize the relationship with Indian nations in this continent. I won't bore you with the rest of this right now because I know that it's very long, but I'm going to come up here and read the rest of it later because it's very hard to understand all this political. But I'll go right to the end of what Morningstar has for us to listen to. And if you'd like to read it, it will definitely be available to you. Just ask me about it and I'll give it to you. But let me read the last page. Unfortunately, Native Americans struggle every day to retain their rights respectively. Every day they must, through whatever means are at their disposal, defend what was promised to them by the United States government. Their belief in the fact that they were here first gives them the right to occupy the land. They believe they were placed here as caretakers of the land. They believe they were defeated people is wrong. Very few of the tribes actually ever fought the United States government. It was just publicized as that. Actually, they fought on the side of the government against the British Revolution in the War of 1812. Many of the tribes had men who volunteered to fight the United States Armed Forces, if not the code talkers who served during World War II, Navajo Indians whose language couldn't be figured out by the Germans or the Japanese. Who knows what may have happened. They were also authors of the United Nations Declaration of Human Rights, an important part of historic documents subject to give back all countries their land that was taken through unjust wars. Needless to say, even though the United States was the authors of this, they could not sign it. If they did, they would have to return a lot of land or make reparations for the tribes. To this day, we still have not signed it. Clearly, as a nation, we stand up for human rights all over the world. We have to honor and live up to these promises made to the noble people. That is why Native American sovereignty is so important to Native Americans. It's a matter of survival as distinct people with their own culture, traditions, and spirituality. And that's the end of that. So let's applaud Morningstar for that. Thank you, Michael Morningstar. I just want to say that we are all natives, and this is, as the moon rises, so shall the people of peace rise. And as the moon prevails through eternity, the people of peace shall prevail. We are all natives of the earth. So let's act as we're one tribe for peace. We are the peace tribe. And we saw that this week when the people that were the unpeace tribe, like the Dick Cheneys of the world, tried to destroy the peace people, but the people of peace prevail. Thank you all for coming. Enjoy the music.